Hello, my friends. Welcome to Lindy's Magpie Reads. If you're new here, a special welcome to you. This is a place where I talk about books. And I'm going to start with a biblioadventure. I went to Powell's Books in Portland for the first time. What an amazing bookstore. I didn't even see a quarter of it. So many rooms. It's huge. If you haven't been there, you could spend an entire day. My niece, Nancy, who is studying in Portland right now, she and I just kind of wandered through, mostly looked at book displays, the end caps, and talked about books. I did look for a specific book and found it. That was Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector. I am going to be doing a buddy read with Natalie of Curious Reader in December, and this is the book that we've chosen. I think it's the first Clarice Lispector for both of us. Very much looking forward to it, and I'm glad that it's a skinny little book. Sean on Sean Breathes Books was talking about the wafer thin book club, and I just love the idea of reading skinny books. Very appealing. I picked up another book that was on one of those end cap displays. The title, the cover caught my eye, My Lesbian Novel by Renee Gladman. I hadn't heard anything about this, but when I read the back and I saw that it's all written as an interview with a character called Renee Gladman, I like that kind of autofiction. Plus, I flipped it open, read a little bit, tickled my fancy. I thought, yeah, this sounds great. So I came home with 2 books from Powell's. Now, for me, the trip to Portland was about something else. I was invited to attend Christine Sinclair's final game with the Portland Thorns. She's retiring. She's a Canadian women's soccer player, and my friend Diana is a huge enthusiast, and her partner couldn't use the ticket because of having to work, so I got to go. It was a fun trip. So from Vancouver Island, we took the ferry across to Tsawwassen, and on the way we saw orcas, and on the way I was knitting. I finished my hat on the trip, so now I have a hat to match a scarf and gloves that I've made. Plus, it was a little chilly watching the game, so it was good to have a hat that I'd finished. It poured down rain during the game, and it seemed to not affect the play whatsoever. I was amazed. Those women I guess they're used to playing in the rain and have the right footwear for playing on a very wet field. But fortunately, where we were in the stands, we were undercover, but the whole center part of the pitch was all open to the sky. The fans in Portland are amazing. There were 23,000 people at this game. So many women in the stands, lots of queer people. I could tell this from all of the rainbow and trans flags that were flying in the fan section. And yeah, it was a really great experience. I listened to a lot of audiobooks on the travel there and back. It's about 5 or 6 hours to get from Tsawwassen to Portland. So I had my headphones on, enjoying the gorgeous autumn colors. Yeah, gotta focus on the positive these days. And I did something for the future. I planted an acorn. I was inspired by this next book I'm going to tell you about. So I'm into the books now. I've finished 6 audiobooks since my last video, so that's what I'm going to tell you about. Starting with Our Green Heart, The Soul and Science of Forests. It's by Diana Beresford-Kroeger, and she is an Irish-Canadian biochemist and biologist who lives in Ontario now, and she is passionate about trees. This book is a collection of essays with titles like Our Cosmic Umbrella, Forest Bathing, Lessons in Botany, Forest Soil, and The Consuming Madness of Scientists. I recorded so many quotes as I was listening to the audiobook, so I'll share a few with you to give you an idea of her tone and voice. When I heard her at the Vancouver Writers Festival in October, she got a standing ovation from some of the members in the audience there. She's truly an inspiring woman. And one of the things that she said about leaving academia was that science is really important to everybody, and so she writes science for the everyday person to understand. So know that about this book. She said, when we plant the wrong tree in the wrong place, we are hoping and praying for a donkey to win the Kentucky Derby. So in regards to the acorn that I planted, it is a Garry oak, which is indigenous to this part of Vancouver Island. And the house where I'm renting has a huge backyard, and I planted this acorn halfway between an ancient pear tree and a very ancient plum tree, both of which are nearing the end of their lives. And so what I envision is by the time this oak tree is of a size, those 2 trees will be gone, and there'll be plenty of room for it to take up lots of space, and for its acorns to provide food for lots of wildlife. They're actually edible by people as well. They used to be an important food source for indigenous peoples, but squirrels and deer are 2 of the creatures who feast on acorns. In the essay titled, What We Still Don't Understand, she writes, the photoactivity of leaf mold is another curiosity of the forest that needs to be explored. We don't yet understand many seemingly fundamental processes in these ecosystems. Even observable phenomena remain mysteries when it comes to their sources or internal mechanics. This is such a great thing about science, is there's so much yet to learn. In the section on forest soil, she talks about how so many animal, bird, insect, reptile, amphibian species are all in decline. And she says, Rachel Carson warned of the chemicals, but she did not tell you to plant trees. I am telling you to plant trees. Get them in the ground now. Yeah, so I planted a tree. I will report back. Okay, one more thing. Diana Beresford-Kroeger was trained in ancient Druidic knowledge when she was a girl in Ireland. And she said, my lessons in Lachines were instructions for the future. The knowledge that was shared with me, my inheritance, was distilled from the oral culture of the path, the collected wisdom and learning about nature and the nature of humankind, and what was assembled as the Brehon laws. These laws were pre-Magna Carta. The latter, a product of the British Empire, is based in precedent on ownership, whereas the Brehon laws are based on observation of what serves nature and humans both. In Ireland today, constitutional lawyers are scrutinizing sections of Brehon laws that can be recycled to protect the natural world. And as a side note, this book that I've been working my way through, The Age of Insecurity by Astra Taylor, it also talks about the Magna Carta and its companion document, the Forest Charter. I don't remember ever having heard previously about the Forest Charter, but those two documents have not only historical but contemporary significance to our lives today. So yeah, Charter of the Forest. And it just connects so well with this book, Our Green Heart. And the audiobook is read by the author. Next, I want to tell you about another Irish author, Alan Murrin, and his debut novel, The Coast Road. I heard about this from Scott of Gunpowder Fiction and Plot. I'm really glad that he encouraged me to pick it up because it is fabulous. It's set in small town Ireland in 1994, and there are 3 women in unhappy marriages with children, and the background kind of bubbling behind this story is the run-up to a referendum on allowing a divorce to be legal in Ireland. A central concern in the novel is the potency of gossip and what happens when lies are repeated and become accepted as truth. The dialogue is pitch perfect. You're somebody who really likes dialogue, this is definitely a book for you, and it also makes it a really good listen in audio. Yeah, it's read by Jessica Regan, who does these subtle differences in Irish accent from different parts of Ireland. Next, I've got another novel, Is Mother Dead? And it's by Vigdis Hjorth, who is a Norwegian author. The book was translated by Charlotte Barslund, and the audiobook is read by Kim Bretton. I had previously read another novel by Hjorth, Long Live the Post Horn, and I liked this one, I think, even better. It does have a similar sort of rhythmic style that might take a little bit getting used to. Or in this novel, Is Mother Dead? It's also that you are in the mind of a woman who seemingly maybe a bit deranged. She is obsessed. It's all about her fraught relationship with her mother. She's the elder of 2 girls. She's a visual artist and moved away and became successful and also became estranged from her family. And now she's back in her hometown and wanting to reconnect with her mother, and her mother won't take her calls. So she goes to some extraordinary lengths, I'll put it that way. I ended up caring very much about this woman and her struggle to repair or heal a relationship. She had interesting things to say about the role of art in culture as well. And I think I'll paraphrase something that she wrote, which is, the true value of a work of art lies in its effect on the observer. Let's just say that some paintings that this character displayed had an effect on her mother. The next 3 audiobooks are all nonfiction. I'm going to start with Revenge of the Tipping Point, Overstories, Superspreaders, and the Rise of Social Engineering. And it's by the Canadian journalist and staff writer for The New Yorker, Malcolm Gladwell. The audiobook is read by the author and a whole bunch of others. It is an excellent production because there are featured interviews and trial transcripts. And if the production is not using the original speaker, then there's a voice actor who's reading that part. So it's a very immersive audio experience. And what Gladwell is doing is revisiting his original book, The Tipping Point, 25 years later. It's looking at how ideas, trends, and epidemics spread, and the specific kind of epidemics that he's talking about are the opioid crisis, COVID, youth suicide. One of the things that really stood out for me is why the opioid overdose death rate is so much higher in neighboring states. So one of the examples is between Indiana and Illinois. And there's a good reason for that. The topics are actually quite wide-ranging. Bank robberies, lack of genetic diversity in cheetahs, athletic programs in elite schools, the acceptability of gay marriage. So all kinds of things. Here's something that I copied from the audio. Around 10% of vehicles are responsible for over half of automobile-based air pollution. Urban air pollution is a perfect example of a problem caused by a few, yet we behave as if it's a problem caused by all of us. So, in addition to multiple voices, this audiobook has got music and all kinds of historical sound clips. So, yeah, I highly recommend the audiobook. And this next audiobook, Flamboyants, The Queer Harlem Renaissance I Wish I'd Known by George M. Johnson, is also really good in audio because it's got music by people like Bessie Smith, Ma Rainey, Ethel Waters, and more. So George M. Johnson is a queer African-American author. His memoir, All Boys Aren't Blue, is also really good. And in this book, he's got 14 biographical essays celebrating queer Black performers, activists, writers, People like Langston Hughes, County Cullen, Josephine Baker, Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, Zora Neale Hurston. People I hadn't heard of before, like Gladys Bentley and Elaine Locke. He's also included his poetry in between these essays. He says, "As someone who lives at the intersection of Black and queer, I've been told that my Blackness comes before my queerness, as if those two things can be separated when I enter a space, as if we must walk around as pieces of ourselves rather than whole people, as if our queerness will be a threat to our Blackness and the Black community as a whole." He also writes, "There are many people you may never meet, but whose lives you will change in some tangible way because you choose to live yours as you do." So, inspiring words. This book is suitable for age 14 and up, and the cover is a painting by Charlie Palmer, who does some gorgeous illustrations for the interior of the print book. So I can also recommend that you pick this one up in print or do it as a print and audio combo. Now, last up, of all 6 of these fantastic audiobooks is my favorite, a very special memoir, Who We Are. 4 Questions for a Life and a Nation, and it's by Murray Sinclair. He wrote this together with his granddaughter, Sara Sinclair, and his son, Niigaan Sinclair. And the audiobook is read by Murray Sinclair and Niigaan Sinclair, with the final section read by Shelagh Rogers. Now, let me tell you, if you don't know, the Honorable Murray Sinclair just died this week on November 4th. He was 73 years old. He was a judge, I think the second Indigenous judge in Canada. It was Anishnaabe. He was an activist and a senator, and he was also the chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I was at an event at the Vancouver Writers Festival celebrating the release of this memoir, and they had planned to have Murray Sinclair come to us on video, and that in person we would have his son Niigaan and also Tanya Talaga on stage talking about the book. But it was slightly different. Obviously, his health was such that he was no longer able to be present on video, and Niigaan wasn't there either. Instead, Shelagh Rogers and Tanya Talaga were on stage, and the person who introduced them was Stephanie Sinclair, who is the niece of Murray Sinclair and also the publisher of McClelland and Stewart. I learned at this event that Shelagh Rogers and Murray Sinclair have the same great-great-great-great-grandmother. So they're related. And I also learned that Shelagh Rogers is newly discovering her Métis heritage. She didn't know until her father died that he was Métis. So interesting things going on at the event. They did play a clip from the audiobook. Murray Sinclair was talking about an interaction he had with a young man who was wanting to mug him. I came away from that event thinking that not only did I want to read this memoir, but I wanted to buy multiple copies to share with everybody. It's told in a series of stories, and the 4 questions of the title are how the book is structured. So the questions are, where do I come from? Where am I going? Why am I here? And who am I? And the memoir itself is about 8 hours long, but there's another 6 hours read by Sheila Rogers at the end. And this is from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report. So important for all Canadians to read or listen to. I did read the final report of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission some time ago, well, before I was on BookTube, and I recommend that as well. As chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Murray Sinclair listened to the testimony of about 7,000 survivors talking about their experiences at residential schools. In the memoir, Sinclair says, most people will never read the report. I know that. And I struggle with the best way to bring survivors' voices into this book. I don't know how to do it. It's not that I don't know how to start doing it. It's that I don't think I can figure out how to stop. So my view is that being in charge of the TRC and being involved in all those hearings and listening to all those survivors profoundly changed my way of thinking about the government, thinking about Canadian society, and thinking about how far we have to go in order to restore Indigenous peoples' self-respect, because we will never achieve reconciliation without self-respect. I cannot speak highly enough of this memoir. It is so good. Yeah, I loved it. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And that is all I've got for you today. So thank you so very much for watching and listening and being there. I always love to hear from you, so please do say hello in the comments down below. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know if you're planning to read any of these audiobooks that I've talked about. I'm going to see you soon because I have read a whole bunch of other books besides these audiobooks. So in the meantime, happy reading, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.